Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to provide a brief introduction for using Pacific's IRB system. So hopefully this will help you get started if that is something you're interested in using for your capstone. So the first thing you want to do is, if you haven't already, make sure you have an account with IRBnet.org. This is the system that Pacific uses, and that you'll have to, regardless of what kind of research or case study you end up doing, this is kind of where everything is located. So make sure you have an account through IRBnet. And once you're logged in, you'll see this is my kind of homepage for my account. You'll see I have some studies that have been submitted or in process, that sort of thing. So once you submit a project, it'll show up kind of in this screen here. But obviously, if you haven't submitted anything yet, you probably won't have anything on in this section. But I think the next best place to go is over here on the left. You'll see forms and templates. So if you click on that, the next thing you want to do is go to select a library. Okay, and you'll see the first one that pops up is Animal Care and Use Committee, which is not relevant to School of OT. So you want to click and go to Pacific University Institutional Review Board, Forest Grove Documents for Researchers. Because again, the other choices are Animal Care and Use Committee, which is not relevant, nor is the Biosafety Committee. So we're going to be this one here, the IRB. So click on that. And then you will get access to all sorts of great and very helpful forms. I highly recommend reading through the new IRB instructions. As you can see, they were just updated this summer. So you'll want to make sure to kind of review those, and those will be really helpful as you're working on your application. Similarly here, they have a requirements checklist, and then also a post-approval checklist that can be very helpful as well. So these three here are really good places to start. One note, and this is included in the IRB instructions, is that you have to have the principal investigator for your study be a faculty member. And so in most, if not all cases, that'll be your capstone advisor. Okay, so whoever your faculty advisor is will serve as the principal investigator or PI. So it's really important that they are listed, and they will also need to submit the initial proposal through this system. Okay, so certainly you'll work with them on it, and probably you will be developing most of the content, but they need to be the again, the person who submits and kind of serves in that principal investigator role. Okay, so it's a really important thing to keep in mind as you are developing and then submitting this. Okay, so if you are thinking about doing a case study, you will go to this document, Request for Determination of IRB Jurisdiction. This is a very short document where you'll basically provide a brief description of your case study, kind of who, the population you're hoping to do, and any other kind of details you want to share about that. So you would submit this document after filling it out, and I'll do a separate video kind of detailing that document, but you would submit that, and 9 times out of 10, the IRB will come back and say a case study is not human subject research because it's not generalizable, right? It just has one person or one family. So it's not generalizable. And so you don't need to go any further in terms of filling out a proposal. So that's a really good document to have and to have approved. because it just shows that you went through the correct channels to kind of check to make sure that your work was, appropriate to move forward with. And then the School of OT has a consent form for case studies that we have approved by the IRB that you can utilize for a case study. So if that's something you're interested in doing, definitely reach out and I can kind of help navigate that process in addition to your faculty capstone advisor. So that's for case studies. And you may also fill out this form for another type of research study. This form, the jurisdiction form, is to assess whether or not you need to move forward with a more involved proposal. Okay, so if we're not sure, then we'll probably fill out this form first and see what the IRB says. But for most research studies, like for example, in capstone work, students sometimes do survey research or maybe a few interviews or focus groups for like a small qualitative study, anything like that, you are going to need to fill out an IRB proposal. And so there's two types of the proposal. And again, I'll make a separate video. There'll be a separate video with details around that. But there's two types. There's an exempt proposal and a full convened proposal. So for the most part, our work in the School of OT will be exempt. And what that really means is that our research does not pose any sort of risk to our participants, right? So it's not like a drug or pharmaceutical study. It's not testing some sort of medical procedure, something invasive, that sort of thing. It's most often, capturing people's perspectives, experiences, maybe measuring outcomes of an intervention, that sort of thing. So typically our proposals will be exempt. But you still need to go through this IRB proposal form, which will detail kind of questions you need to answer and information you need to provide. Okay. So these first documents are kind of where you'll get started. Then you will submit it to the IRB. Typically, the IRB will respond in a few weeks and either give you approval or maybe say that your case study is not, under IRB jurisdiction. You may be asked to submit additional information, that sort of thing. So there's a couple different options. You'll see here, though, in this document library, there's some other valuable forms. Number 7 particularly is a PowerPoint that kind of walks through the IRB process as well. So this can be very helpful. Many of these other documents may be relevant depending on what you are submitting for your proposal. So many of them will not be relevant to your work, so you don't need to worry about most of them, but there may be some. For example, here, if you're doing an online survey, there is a template for an informed consent form that you can use, that sort of thing. Additionally, sometimes folks may be looking at educational information, which comes under FERPA regulations here. So there may be some other things that you need to look at. But otherwise, most of those documents are going to be these first few up here. So if you are interested in doing either a case study or a more involved research study, I do highly recommend, if you haven't already, reach out to your faculty advisor and to myself so we can help you navigate the process. Typically, if you're doing something more involved, it really needs to be kind of set up and ready to go before you start your capstone experience, or maybe shortly, approved shortly into your capstone experience. But you don't want to wait too long, because obviously you cannot collect any data until the IRB is approved. So depending on what your plan is, not having an IRB approved can really slow you down. And, we have a finite time frame for your work, right? So you do want to kind of get as much as possible done and squared away before you start. Case studies are a little different in the sense that Again, typically they're much less involved. So if you decided, if you're unsure kind of, leading up to your experience, if you want to do a case study, but decide, after you start that you do want to do a case study as your capstone project, as that scholarship piece, then you likely will be able to submit something, again, kind of maybe early on in your capstone experience, get it approved so that you're able to complete the case study within the time frame. But again, if you know you want to do a case study and you are able to submit the documentation now, that's even better so that you're all ready to go. So again, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about navigating the IRB, and look forward to seeing what projects you come up with.